I whispered to myself, what have I done? This can't be real. This can't be me. My body is moving, but I'm not in control. When I first started sleepwalking, my wife used to laugh about it. At first, it was a cute little quirk, something we joked about before bed. It even felt like a funny shared memory. But to me, it was terrifying. Because at night, it didn't feel like I was in my own body anymore. I'd see glimpses of myself, walking down the hallway, heading toward the office in the dark. And when I tried to remember it, it was like looking through a foggy mirror, blurry, broken, and sometimes completely gone. Once she told me, "You're trying to seduce me." She laughed, but I didn't, because I knew, deep down, it wasn't me. It was someone else, inside me, using me. "If it happens again," I said, "please wake me up. Just bring me back to bed." She smiled and stroked my hair. "You're harmless," she said. "Sweet, gentle." But that sweetness didn't last long. I tried everything. Herbal teas, dark rooms, no caffeine. I even quit alcohol. Nothing helped. So I did something strange. I tied the sash from my bathrobe around my ankle. The other end I secured tightly to the bed frame. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but it worked. Most nights, if I moved, the pressure would wake me up. Until that night. One morning, I woke up to her eyes, white with fear. Her face pale, her fists clenched. She couldn't even speak. Then somehow I realized I was holding scissors. I'd left the bedroom, gone down the hall, cornered her in the office. The scissors were in my hand. She was pleading, silently. I don't know how or when it ended, only that I woke up back in bed, and her face stayed with me. "You nearly stabbed me," she said later, trembling. "You tore the rope to escape, and you came at me." That was the night it stopped being funny. The next morning, we talked. I begged her, "Please," I said, "if it ever happens again, wake me up. That thing in me, it's dangerous when I'm asleep." But she was right too. "What if you attack me while I try to wake you?" she asked. "You had scissors. Don't they say you should never wake a sleepwalker?" And maybe she was right. Maybe you really shouldn't wake people like me. Still, I felt helpless. I made an appointment at a sleep clinic, 2 weeks away. In the meantime, we locked up all sharp objects. I kept tying myself to the bed, and this time with thicker cloth, safer, stronger. But nothing felt strong enough. Some mornings I'd wake up bruised, scratches on my arms, burns on my ankle, and sometimes I wasn't even in my pajamas anymore, just underwear. It felt like I'd been in a fight, one I didn't remember. Whatever was happening at night, it wasn't a joke anymore. It was becoming a nightmare. The morning of the clinic appointment, my wife wouldn't look at me. Her face was tight, quiet. "What did I do?" I asked. Tears welled in her eyes. "If you don't remember," she whispered, "I don't want to talk about it." And that day, we said nothing more. That night, I went to the clinic. They strapped me in. A one-way mirror. A technician watching, recording everything. I felt safe. I thought, finally, someone would see what's happening. In the morning, I remembered only one thing. Standing in front of the glass, staring. But the footage showed much more. I sat up at midnight, spent 13 minutes untying the knot. Slowly, methodically. Then I stood and walked directly to the mirror. I pressed my face against the glass and watched. Watched the technician on the other side. For over 3 hours, I didn't move. Then I started singing. Just the two of us. That old song from the 80s. But my voice wasn't mine. It was hollow, wrong, and my face didn't smile. It was blank, a mask. "You're so lucky," I whispered, "that I can't get to you." What was I talking about? The next day, the doctors gave me medication, and it worked. No more incidents, no more bruises, just quiet sleep. For a while, it felt like I was human again. Even my wife started smiling again. One night, she poured wine and said, "Maybe we can drink again. You're better now, right?" We laughed. We drank. But I forgot. I forgot to take the pill. I forgot to tie myself down. And the next morning, everything was wrong. Scratches on my face, bruises on my arms, blood on my neck, and my wife wasn't beside me. The house was silent. Too silent. I called out her name again and again, but no answer. And I couldn't move. I couldn't open the door. Because whatever was behind it, I wasn't ready to face it. I whispered again, "Oh my God, what have I done?" It was one of those nights again. The kind where the darkness feels heavier than usual. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, brushing their branches against each other like old secrets. Streetlights cast long, tired shadows on the pavement. But as I stood at my front door, everything felt suffocating. Inside, I got out of bed. Or at least I think I did. But my body didn't feel like mine. My feet were cold against the parquet floor. My breathing was slow, calm, but distant. The corridor ahead pulled me in, like a tunnel with no end. I didn't know where I was going, yet somehow I did. My heart beat softly in my chest. My thoughts were hazy, like mist on a mirror. Half-closed eyes, blurred vision, a strange mix of peace and fear. I felt like I was watching myself from afar, separate from the thing moving forward. And then I saw it, a soft, dim glow from across the street. My neighbor's porch light, a fragile warmth in the cold night. I walked toward it without thinking. My hand reached out, knocked, once, twice. The door clicked open slowly. His face appeared in the crack. Confused, concerned, his eyes searched mine, filled with dread. "Is that you?" he whispered. But I couldn't answer, because it wasn't really me. I stepped inside, the light behind the door guiding me like a beacon. My steps were nearly silent on the old wooden floor, but something inside me roared. There was a chair, a table, a few candles flickering with tired flames. Their shadows danced on the faded wallpaper. My neighbor stood behind me, frozen. He stared, not at me, but through me. "What are you looking for?" he asked, voice barely above a breath. I couldn't speak. I wanted to, but the words were caught, trapped deep in my throat. There was a stranger inside me, moving me, breathing through me. I looked at my hands, sweaty, pale. They didn't feel like mine. Who was I in that moment? A shell, a memory? I didn't know anymore. The room grew colder. Time slowed. My mind drifted. The person staring back at me wasn't me. My neighbor walked to the old bookshelf, brushing his fingers across the dusty spines. He didn't speak. Not yet. His silence said more than words ever could. We cared for each other, he and I. That's why what happened was so terrifying. Imagine this. Someone you love knocks on your door late at night, but their eyes are empty. They're not awake. Not truly. What would you do? Would you let them in? Would you run? "If you keep doing this," he said gently, "you'll hurt yourself. Or me." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Suddenly, the guilt overwhelmed me. Memories came flooding in. Nights I woke up in strange places. Scars I didn't remember getting. Moments I didn't live, yet still carried. If I don't wake up, how dangerous can I be? It was the first time I truly feared myself. Later that night, something changed. I no longer remembered where I was. His home became something unreal. The walls bent, the light dimmed, the air itself felt wrong. The old clock ticked on the wall, soft, steady. Each tick like a knock at the edge of my mind. My body moved, but I was not inside it, not anymore. Then, the shadow appeared. Not him. Something else, long, thin, watching. It followed me in silence, and I followed it without question. A chill spread through my spine. I wanted to scream, but I had no voice. I wanted to run, but I had no will. That thing in the corner. It wasn't just in my dream. It was in me. And if you're listening to this now, if you've ever walked through a night that wasn't yours, you're not alone. If you or someone you know experiences sleepwalking, please seek help. Because sometimes sleep is not rest. Sometimes it's a battlefield between who you are and what hides beneath. That night, I left his house. Not because I wanted to, but because something else decided to. Outside, the cold hit my skin. Inside, the darkness remained. The streets, the rooms, the walls, they blurred. Everything was a whisper. I reached my own front door again, but this time, I was afraid to enter. Because the worst question wasn't, what did I do? It was, what if that house wasn't his? What if next time, it's someone else's? Sleepwalking isn't just walking, it's surrender. And I'm still trying to wake up. I want to tell you about something that happened to me one night. It was late. I was about to drift off. A soft wind rustled the trees. Street lamps cast dim pools of light along the sidewalk. And then there was a knock at my door. It was my neighbor, barefoot, wearing just a thin t-shirt. His face was blank, his eyes half closed. He stood there in the cold, saying nothing. I could tell he was sleepwalking. And like they always say, I didn't wake him, just watched. It felt like his body had come to my door, but his mind stayed somewhere else. "Are you okay?" I asked. No response. He simply turned, walked back across the yard, and returned to his house. I couldn't sleep after that. The next morning, I saw him taking out the trash. He looked completely normal, smiled, waved, as if nothing had happened. "You knocked on my door last night," I told him. He blinked in confusion. "What?" "It was around 2 a.m. You came, stood there, then left." He let out a nervous laugh. "I sleepwalk sometimes," he said. "Didn't know I did it last night." We both laughed it off. It felt harmless. Just one of those things. I wish it had ended there. But it didn't. It became routine. Every 2 or 3 nights, a knock, then silence. Sometimes he would just stare at me. Other times he'd hum. Once, I think I heard him cry. A quiet, aching sound. I didn't know what to do. Eventually I started pretending I wasn't home. Lights off, doors locked. Still, he came. And then it changed. One night, I didn't wake to knocking. I woke to whispers. I peeked through the blinds. There he was, standing at my door, murmuring to himself. But not in any language I recognized. Not English, not German, not anything human. The sound was muffled, strange, dark, like he was chanting something ancient. I backed away. The next morning, I noticed how pale he looked. There were shadows under his eyes, as if something had started feeding on him at night. And now it was bleeding into the day. And then came the nightmare. One night, I heard my kitchen door creak. I had locked it. I know I had locked it. I live alone. I ran in. The door was wide open. I ran outside, panicked, and across the street. in his window. He was watching me, unmoving, unblinking. "Hey," I shouted. No reaction, just a smile. Wide, unfamiliar, wrong. That wasn't him. But how could I report it? He was my neighbor. He'd always been kind. I didn't want to believe it, but I was terrified. The next day I tried to confront him. He denied everything. "I didn't leave my house. I slept all night. Why would I be watching you?" But his eyes were hollow, as if the real him was somewhere else. And then he said something, words I'll never forget. "From now on, don't open the door, even if it's me." He meant it. He was afraid of himself. So I locked everything, every window, every door. I kept the lights on, but still, every night I heard it. Not knocking anymore, scratching at the door. One night, I couldn't take it. I grabbed a bat, swung the door open. No one was there. But on the doorstep, muddy footprints. I followed them. They ended right in the middle of the yard and vanished. I didn't see him for a week. No knocks, no scratching, no window stairs, nothing. Then yesterday, I found an envelope on my doorstep. No name, no stamp, just left there. Inside, a note. Handwritten, "If I ever come to your door again, it might not be me. Don't let me in. He's using my face." Since then, I haven't slept. The lights stay on. I sit by the door, waiting. And last night, at 3:14 a.m., the bell rang. A voice followed. "Please, I'm so cold. Let me in." But I didn't open the door, because I knew it wasn't him. And if you've ever watched someone sleepwalk and wondered who they really were in that moment, or if you've ever woken up unsure of where you went the night before, then maybe this story sounds familiar. But tell me, if it were you, would you open the door? I wonder. Sleep well, if you can. Yes, this happened to me too. I live in a quiet neighborhood. You know, the kind where people nod to each other in the morning, and at night you can hear the wind brushing through the trees. That kind of place. I never expected anything strange here, until I met my neighbor, Kyle. He moved in early spring. Nice guy, kept to himself. We only talked once or twice. He actually seemed thoughtful, friendly. We got along well. He gave off a good vibe. But then, as autumn rolled in, something started to feel off. It was a Thursday night. I was half asleep on the couch, TV on, lights dim, and then I heard footsteps on my porch, slow, barefoot, dragging across the wooden boards. I froze. Then came the knock. Not loud, but deliberate, as if it wanted to be heard. For a second, I thought it might be a break-in. My instincts kicked in. I almost grabbed a baseball bat. Part of me wanted to call 911, but I looked through the peephole instead. It was Kyle, standing there, barefoot, wearing a thin t-shirt, eyes closed, completely still. He looked asleep, but somehow also awake. His breathing was deep and steady. "Kyle," I whispered. No answer, just a faint sigh. Then he turned, walked silently across the yard, and disappeared into his house. I didn't know what to make of it. Was he messing with me? Had too much to drink? Was he dreaming? Still, it shook me a little. But I told myself it was just a weird moment. Maybe he was just sleepwalking. The next morning, I saw him watering his flowers. He looked fine, waved, smiled. I walked over, we had a beer together, and when I brought it up, he laughed, said it wasn't the first time. His doctor had called it harmless sleepwalking. I tried to brush it off, tried to believe it was nothing, but it kept happening. Every few nights, a knock, then silence. Sometimes he'd just stand there, staring. Sometimes he hummed. Once it even sounded like he was crying, but it was soft, like something caught in his throat, a pain he couldn't speak. I started locking the door, turning off the lights, pretending I wasn't home, but he always came. Then one night, everything changed. This time it wasn't the knocking that woke me. It was the whispers. I peeked through the curtains. He was there, facing my door, mumbling to himself. It didn't sound like English or any language I knew. Just low, broken syllables, as if he was reciting something. I could have called the police, but it was Kyle. We were friends. I cared about him, but I was scared now, really scared. I didn't know what to do. If you were in my shoes, you'd understand. The next day, I tried talking to him. He denied everything. I never left my house, he said. I was asleep. Why would I be watching you? But his eyes, they were hollow, like Kyle wasn't there anymore. I've known people who sleepwalk. This was something else, something wrong. Since that day, I haven't slept. The lights stay on. I sit by the door, waiting, and last night, 3:14, the bell rang, and a voice, "Please, I'm so cold. Let me in." But I didn't, because I knew it wasn't him. If someone you knew started changing in their sleep, became someone else entirely, or if you ever woke up and couldn't remember where you went. Maybe this story sounds familiar, but tell me, if it were you, would you open the door? I honestly wonder, was he the one who left that envelope? Or did something else take over his body? I grabbed the bat, opened the door. No one. But there, muddy footprints. I followed them. They led to the middle of the garden and stopped. Just stopped, like he vanished into thin air. I didn't see him for a week. He stopped coming to my door, didn't show up in the window, didn't even take out his trash. And after that day, I never heard from him again. Sleep well. If you can wake up